too loud.
Okay, sorry.
Do it nicely.
Oh, okay? Yes. Hallelujah.
Hello, and thank you for joining me for my first ever YouTube post to this channel. My name is Stacy, and I am the high school pastor here at Casas Church in Tucson, Arizona, and this is our new YouTube channel, HSM MSN Live. Thank you, Andrea Benjamin, for that awesome icon. I am going to be here for a couple times a week posting messages so that even when we cannot actually physically be together for Sunday service or Wednesday small groups, we can still try and stay virtually connected. And it's a really important thing, I think. I think this is an important thing to try and do even when we cannot be together. And it is not because I have always wanted to post to YouTube. It is not because I have any interest in being whatever Insta famous might be. I mean, I'm standing in a room talking to a camera and it's empty when it should be full of my students hanging out and engaging and being silly together. But I still think that there's a lot of value in making these messages and trying to stay connected even when it's really virtual. See, here, we at High School Ministry at Casas, we talk all the time about the power and the value of communities and of environments, of the places that we're in. And when I say environments, I don't mean things like outside and pollution and desert and a saguaro. Like, I don't mean those things. I mean more like the kind of atmosphere that you're existing in and how it makes you feel, how it makes you experience life. Like, is the environment around you angry? Is the environment around you supportive and kind? Does it judge you or does it lift you up? Like, what is the environment around you and how does it have an impact on you? Because I honestly believe it has a huge impact. That the environment you are existing in, the community that you are around, has an impact on you physically and mentally and emotionally, but especially spiritually. And the truth is, like, this is not something I came up with. This is not some revolutionary idea about the impact of the environment that's around you. Like, you've experienced this, you've lived this. Imagine with me for one moment a time that you have walked into a room and immediately wished you hadn't. Like, you immediately wanted to get out as soon as you walked in that room. Like, for some of you, that could be you walked into the living room mid mom and dad fight. Like, they may not be yelling at each other, but you can feel the tension. You can feel the anger. You can feel the like cold shoulder thing that they're giving each other, right? Or maybe you've walked into a room and mom and dad just looked at your grades online on your portal, and you can feel the tension in that moment because you're not doing as well at math as you've been telling them you've been doing all semester. Like, you can feel this anger and this underlying feeling, and it's this environment that you don't want to be in anymore. Some of you have experienced this back when you used to like physically walk into classrooms back in the day. Like, you have walked into a classroom late for the 5th time that week, and you knew the environment you were going to meet up with was not going to be positive. Like, there have been times that you have walked into a room with your best friend and you knew that friend was mad at you, or you were mad at them, and you were not looking forward to it thinking this is going to be a fun time. There are times that you have had teammates, and they were only called your teammates because you were technically playing the same sport on the same team, but they were not actually for you. They didn't want to see you succeed. They actually kind of wanted to see you mess up so they could make fun of you, so they could take your place, whatever that might look like. Imagine that room, whatever your scenario has been, you walked in and you immediately were like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here right now. I want to go. And what did that environment feel like? Because my guess is that that environment, wherever that was, whatever that experience was like, was kind of angry. Or maybe it was tense. Maybe it was actually kind of sad and like dark and heavy. But I'm gonna guess it didn't make you feel like you could be honest. I'm gonna guess it didn't make you feel like a place you could be vulnerable and be really real. I'm gonna guess it's not the kind of environment that makes you feel like you can succeed. Like they are for you and they want to see you do great things. I'm gonna guess that kind of environment you immediately want to get out of because it doesn't lift you up. It doesn't have a good feeling. It doesn't make you feel like a good person. But wipe that from your mind, walk out of that memory, and now picture yourself being with the person you feel the safest with. That could be a best friend probably. It could be a parent. It could be a teacher or a coach. I don't know who your person is. Maybe a sibling. Who is the person you feel like you can be the realest with? And what is it like to be with them instead? I'm gonna bet they encourage you. that at some point they encourage you. They think you're funny. They think you're capable. They think you can succeed. I'm going to guess they're kind to you. I'm going to guess that they're honest with you, and that makes you feel like you can be honest with them. Like maybe they can see the crazy in your family and still be there for you. Like maybe you can tell them about a time that you failed or a time that you just weren't everything you wanted to be. And instead of labeling you and judging you and walking away, they actually are like, dude, that's fine. We don't mess up. It's okay. We'll get through this together. Like they feel like they're with you. Now that's the environment you want to be in, right? You're not like fighting jealousies and fighting your insecurities. You can just be real and be yourself and relax. That's the impact of environments. And we here at Casas believe environments have a huge impact on you, especially spiritually. That when you're experiencing an environment of grace and compassion, an environment that is excited to see you, an environment that believes that you're awesome exactly how you walked in, not forcing you to change and fight for acceptance, but an environment where you feel like you can be honest. You can ask your questions. You can voice your doubts, your questions, your concerns, your joys, your downfalls, and still know that you're excited and that your friends want to see you be successful. We believe an environment of grace and compassion, when you interact with that, actually leaves you feeling safe enough to potentially maybe have an honest and real interaction with Jesus Christ. That maybe an environment of grace and compassion opens you up to the possibility God might actually be real. God might actually like you. And that also is not a revolutionary concept, that an environment can impact your spiritual walk. Jesus walked this out all the time, you guys. Story after story after story, still happening to people today. Jesus himself with this environment of grace and compassion all the time, that people just long to be around him. People travel so far just to be near Jesus because of the environment that he was, because of his grace, his compassion, and his acceptance, and how that altered people. There's so many stories of this, but I did want to talk about one today in this quick first YouTube. And that story comes from a book in the Bible called John, and they call them chapters, like part of the Bible, and so this is John chapter 4. And so quickly what's going on is Jesus is traveling, which is something he did all the time back then because he was interacting with new people and sharing this new message of how to be a humanity that actually accepted each other and a God that might actually know your name and care for you exactly as you are. So he's traveling around, and at some point he's getting tired. And so what the Bible says in John 4 is that while Jesus is traveling, he has to go through this area called Samaria on his way. And eventually he comes to this Samaritan village, and he's tired from his long walk, so he sits on the edge of this well. And the Bible specifies that he sits on the edge of this well around noontime. And soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Please give me a drink." Doesn't sound like a big deal, but here's how she responds. The woman is surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans, for Jesus was a Jew, have anything to do with Samaritans. And she said to Jesus, "You're a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink?" Now, this is kind of awkward because we don't actually live in this culture and in this area, so we don't understand all the social dynamics going on. But two things. When she says, "Why are you talking to me? You're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan." Back then, Jews and Samaritans had a fierce rivalry. Jews hated Samaritans. They were enemies. They believed that they were better than them. So they would never just talk to each other. I mean, think about your own enemies. Are you just going to sit down next to them and be like, "Hey, bro, can I have that soda?" Like, that's not something that's going to happen. So she's like, "What are you doing? We don't talk. That's not a thing that we do." But there's something else happening right here too, because we're told she's chilling at the well at noon. That's very uncommon. Women back then would have gone to the well all together as a group first thing in the morning when it was cooler. But instead, she's in the middle of the day, probably the hottest part of the day, and she's by herself. And what that tells us is that this woman knows, because of who she is, where she's been, what she's done, she is not welcome. She exists in an environment that shuns her. She exists in an environment that says, "You've messed up too many times. You are broken." They've labeled her, and they've pushed her to the outside to live this life of being very isolated and lonely, carrying all the burden of their judgment. And she shows up at noon. She's like, "What are you doing? Don't talk to me. I know who I am. I know what labels they've given me." And I'm going to guess people watching this video now or sometime, because it'll stay posted, have made the joke, oh, I don't go to church because I would set on fire. You don't have enough holy water for me? I'm gonna guess you're like, oh, she's cute. She just doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know what I've done. She doesn't know where I've been. She doesn't know the things that I've said and how I've treated people. See, maybe those people over there, God might be real to them. God might love them. They might be welcome at church. And that grace and compassion thing she's talking about, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know the family I come from. She doesn't know the things that I've done or the things that have been done to me. And the truth is I don't. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you've been, and I don't know the things that you've done. But the truth is that Jesus does. He does right now the same way he knew for that woman at the well. I mean, he actually calls her out on it because he's an honest man. And he's like, see, I know you and I see you. And I know these things about you. But he doesn't give her this label of being broken. He doesn't give her this label of being unwanted. He actually treats her with respect. And he says, you know what I have? I have life. I can give you real life, not under the burden of all these other expectations, not under the burden of trying to hide your insecurities, of trying to act like nothing phases you, nothing matters, I don't need this, not trying to hide under these labels of maybe I am worthless. Whatever that environment might be around you, Jesus is like, I see that stuff, and I don't give you that label. I give you the label of love. In fact, and it has this life-changing impact on this woman. What happens is the woman leaves the well. She leaves the water jar beside the well and she runs back to the village and she's telling everyone, come and see the man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah? Could he be the one God promised us? Look, you guys, he sees me. Like he sees me in my ugliness. He sees me in my secrets. He sees me and he still calls me loved. He still calls me wanted. He still calls me by name. Come and check this out. So the villagers go. The people from the village are streaming out to see him, and many Samaritans from the village believed in Jesus because the woman had said, he told me everything I ever did. The power of environment. Jesus Christ was in an environment of grace and compassion. Yeah, he saw people for who they really were, and he loved them for it. And it had the most crazy impact on their lives. They suddenly saw and encountered a God who might actually love them, who might actually like them as they are, not forcing some grand change before they could be accepted. And we here at Casas, as imperfect humans who believe in a powerful and great God, want to be that environment for our high school students. We believe that we want to be an environment of grace and compassion where you walk in here and know that we are excited to see you. I guess subscribe to this channel now instead of walk in, but know that we are excited to see you exactly as you are. That we're excited that you're here, that this is a place you can be honest. And I believe when you experience that kind of an environment, you cannot help but encounter God. You cannot help but encounter the possibility of the truth that Jesus Christ might actually know who you are. He might actually know your name, and he might actually like you. He might actually love you. That's the impact and the power of an environment of grace and compassion. But, because that sounds great, right? But we are currently living and walking in a really weird time, aren't we? I mean, we're living in a world with words like quarantine and social distancing. We're living in a world right now where people are being sent home to work from home rather than going into the office for possibly the first time ever. We're living in a world where you can't even go to school anymore to be with your friends and your teachers and walk the hallways and be all together. We're living in a time where you might suddenly find yourself living at home with both parents and your siblings full time with nowhere to go because everything is closed. We're living in a time where markets have become scary. Like walking into Fry's or Walmart right now is a little anxious. It's a little fearful. It's a bizarre time. And if we let ourselves, we can exist in an environment that is only full of anxiety and fear. We can live and exist in an environment right now that only feels isolating and lonely and tense and bored and possibly angry and become depressed. We can exist in that kind of environment. But I want us to exist in an environment that believes in the power of grace and compassion even when we cannot physically be together. I believe that we can create, even if it's a virtual community and a virtual environment of acceptance, being excited to hear from you, that can help pull all of us through this very strange, intense time together and actually maybe be the better for it at the end. With that in mind, there's a couple of ways that I'm trying to make social media a more interactive community. And I want for you guys to join in and be a part of this, because this is an environment and a community for you as a high school student to be a part of and to see and interact and to be honest and see what happens in a couple weeks. Because I believe that's how we will encounter God through all of this. One way. God's bigger than just one way. But couple of things I'm doing. I'm going to continue to post short videos here. So subscribe so you see when new content comes up. Yes, some brief messages like this, but also some silliness. I've got some of your small group leaders. We're going to post some silly videos. And that way you can see a little cameo of your small group leader, give them a little shout out, and see some silliness that we can do on YouTube. Also, if you do not currently follow HSM Casas on Instagram, go do that. We're going to do some live chats so that I can actually talk to you and ask you, how are you doing in the quarantine? How are you doing being at home and not at school? How is this going? And we can actually interact and we can talk. I'm also going to be posting some fun challenges and maybe some competitions with maybe ways to win some gift certificates and things like that. So go follow us on Instagram. We do have a Snapchat. You can follow us on there. We'll post silly videos. If you don't know, my dog Beasley is basically the mascot for our high school group, so you might see cute pictures of my dog. And the thing is if you are a part of our community all the time, Sundays and Wednesdays, I'm so excited you're here. I'm excited to see you and that you're watching this. Good job. But let's say you're not. This is a time that our community can actually get bigger because you don't really have a lot else to do. You're on social media anyway. So get some friends together, get some of your high school friends together, whether they're a part of us on Sundays and Wednesdays normally or not, and include them in this. It gives you stuff to talk about, gives you stuff to do together and to interact as a community. And I mentioned earlier, your parents might find themselves home with teenagers more often than ever before. And that can be tough on a mom and a dad. So I know not a ton of high schoolers use Facebook, but high school ministry is on Facebook. So if your parents use that platform, encourage them to come and join our group. It is a place for parents, or you if you're on Facebook, that's cool, no big deal, but to feel encouraged. To maybe voice some concerns, ask some questions. Maybe they want some prayer for their family or for their job. Adults are going through an anxious time right now too. So encourage your parent to go over and to join our Facebook group just so that they can at least know the things that we're doing to reach out to high school students and have this virtual community experience. And the other thing we're going to do, we do Wednesday night small groups here at church. We are going to be keeping that going even when we can't physically be together by having virtual small groups. So if you are normally a part of a small group here, reach out to your leader. Text them up and be like, hey, when are we meeting and what kind of platform are we using, like Zoom or FaceTime or whatever works for you guys. And if you've never been a part of a small group here, then comment. Find me on Instagram at the HSM Casas and let me know. We can get you plugged in, get you in contact with one of our excellent small group leaders, and that way you can virtually be together and be talking and chatting and encouraging each other and beating down the loneliness and the isolation that could win if we are not very mindful and intentional during this time. So, thank you very much for watching my first post. I'm excited to interact with you guys, even if it's over social media. And I hope that all high school students know, and people, but you are loved and you are missed. So I'll see you guys soon.